So Jen did such a great job of quieting everybody down that I think, I'm afraid, some of you in the back might be sleeping. So I'm from Texas, and okay. I grew up in Texas and went to Texas A&M where I got a computer science degree. And in Texas, and at Texas A&M, what we do is when someone's up in front of the room and we get started, we say howdy. And so everybody else in the room responds howdy. So let me hear it. Howdy. Howdy. Okay, that's pretty good. I like that for a bunch of, you know, Yankees and landlubbers and Cowleys and you're from. Whoa. Anyway, I'm going to take a different tack today. The other speakers I really enjoyed listening to, and I love the energy out here in tech land. And I'll tell you that you know, I'm pretty jealous of you for being part of this this movement here, and it's been very interesting for me in my career that's almost 30 years old. Seeing the energy that's going on right now, so I'm gonna take a little bit different tack, but first I'm gonna tell you a little story. So I had a birthday a couple weeks ago, and my wife was, and we always have these conversations about, you know, she says when it's her birthday, she says, "Don't do anything for me," and I sort of say the same, "Don't do anything for me," and so she's sort of slow playing me the whole time. She's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing anything." I'm like, okay. I said, where are we going to go have dinner? Usually we have a little family dinner. I have 2 boys, and she said, yeah, we'll get the boys together, we'll go have a little dinner. I'm like, okay, fine. So she says, right about 5 minutes till 6 this afternoon, she says, we're going to leave about 6:15. I'm like, all right, what should I wear? Just wear shorts and shirt, whatever. I'm like, okay, good. So all of a sudden my family disappears. And I'm like, where did they go? And I see the car started out in the driveway. So one of my sons is out there, started the car. And my wife's nowhere to be found, and my older son comes in, and he's wearing this kind of patterned shirt. And I'm like, what the heck is he doing? I've never seen that shirt on him before. So he goes here, and he throws the shirt at me. And it's this Hawaiian shirt. And I'm like, okay, my wife likes to buy, you know, summery shirts for me. I put the shirt on. He goes, put the shirt on, put the shirt on. So we're ready to go. I'm like, okay. So we walk out toward the car, and I get in the car, and my son, who's 16, he's a new driver, has a new car and is a new driver. He turns to his mom and says, where are we going? And she goes, oh, go down Parker to Parkwood, take a left on Parkwood, and I said, and then take a right at the stop sign. And he looked at me and goes, how'd you know that? Well, I'm looking at my son, who's got a Hawaiian shirt on. I have a Hawaiian shirt on. My other son has a Hawaiian shirt on. My wife, who's sitting behind me, has a flowery print dress on. And I'm like, I realized we were going to Roy's, which is this Hawaiian themed restaurant. It's a good place. And then my son puts the music on in the car. And it's da-da-da-da-da-da. So, you know, that's the Hawaii 5-0 thing. 5-0. I turned 50 this year. So the reason I tell you this is because, first of all, I'm the self-proclaimed president of the Old Guys Club in here tonight. But I also want to give you that because I want to tell you a little bit of history as a way to sort of set some context and open your eyes to another part of the world of tech. And so what I'm calling this is 2-speed technology. All right, there's 2 speeds. You guys are in the jet ski. There are guys in tugboats too, and gals. And so let me tell you in about 90 seconds the history of the tugboat. So I said I've been doing this thing for about 30 years. So the first 10 years of my career, working in the world of the tugboat, these are the big, slow-moving enterprises who are trying to figure out how to use information technology to be better, to solve big problems. We're talking a lot about solving big problems. Let me tell you, that's where the big problems live in this world, a lot of them. So the first 10 years, And by the way, I was one of those guys who learned Fortran. I learned Fortran, Lisp, Pascal, Prolog, Ada. That's a good one. Whole nother story down that road. Apparently, it was really important in the government for a while. The first 10 years was made up of a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of inventors, a lot of very, very creative people, because there were no tools. There were a few languages, no tools, nothing to leverage, no internet, nothing. We built everything from scratch. It was a very entrepreneurial environment. I had the chance a couple weekends ago to go to a camp to learn how to make barbecue. Another Texas thing. And I ran into this guy who was the SVP of programming at the AMC cable network. And we were talking about the shows that he had on TV. And of course, you know, Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul, and Walking Dead are the big names. But I said, what are the shows that I should be watching that I don't know about? He said, there's this one called Halt and Catch Fire. And I'm like, has anybody seen that show? All right, the true uber nerd, history buffs there. I started watching it. So that first 10 years, this is the late 80s, early 90s, is really, really well done in this show. So if you're interested in that, I highly recommend you check this series out. Halt and Catch Fire, it's on AMC. So the first 10 years was a lot of coding, a lot of custom, a lot of invention, and a lot of building the tools. And one of the projects I worked on in that first 10 years was building a stock exchange from scratch. Not the trading systems, but the actual software that runs the exchange, that takes a buyer and a seller and puts them together and makes a trade real time. That's pretty cool stuff. But I'll tell you what happened was, most of the companies out there decided that this was really hard. All this custom building and creation and invention was really hard. So a few vendors got together, a few entrepreneurs out here largely, some in Germany and some in other parts of the world, got together and started building some tools. They tried to build tools to make programmers out of people who either didn't want to program, didn't know how to program, or weren't very good at it. They called them 4GLs, fourth generation languages. They were supposed to be easier, better, faster, more abstract, more business oriented. Well, that was a joke. It didn't work. It was fun to use them, it was fun to build with them, but you know what happens when you create abstraction is it's a lot harder to do things unique. And so that's what happens. We had a lot of generic stuff going around. Well, during that time, some smart, creative people went out and they built reusable software. They built custom and product applications to help businesses remove the need to have a bunch of really smart developers in their organization. So throughout this process, the first 10 years of custom, the next 10 years of trying to figure out how to help companies make better software by building more tools, and in the next 10 years, the third 10 years, going into this world of packaged software. What happened was a lot of the great entrepreneurial spirit, talent, and builders left that tugboat. You guys are on the jet ski. And so we have the internet, we have GitHub, we have the crowdfunding platforms, we have the open source world, and we have such a new world that the enterprise has been left behind because they're too slow. But what I'm here to tell you is that there is the next 10 years coming along here that's going to be different. And what those next 10 years are going to look like is a lot of these enterprises who are seeing the reality of the fast sea-doos out there and jet skis who want to get on board, who want to figure out how to play in the tugboat and put a bunch of those jet skis out in the water as well. So startups are great. This culture and environment of innovation is great. But there is a huge, huge opportunity to solve big, complex, interesting problems that are happening in those tugboats and those companies who want to learn about what's going on in the startup world too. And that's what I do. That's what we do in the professional services world, is help to bridge those two worlds. Help to bring the ideas that are happening in the innovative, fast-moving environments and help those tugboats get more nimble, faster, and solve these big problems. So what I figured I'd do for a few minutes is show you some of the examples of things that are bridging this world of the big tugboats and the jet skis together and some of the things that we're working on. So, if you're interested in mobile and wearables, I'm glad to hear that even the most innovative, fast-moving, sea-doos out here are having trouble with mobile developers. That's always a challenge with us as well. But we're doing some really interesting stuff. So, for example, we're doing a lot of work in the retail world, helping companies figure out how to take interesting mobile applications and put them in the wearables world. So we have about 5 projects right now that are all working on Apple Watch development and helping sort of create a new shopping experience for people in stores and online and out in the world to use this technology in different ways. Anybody out there played with little bits? Anybody Arduino, BeagleBone, sensor, hacker types playing with the projects and inventing things? Okay. So I was in Southeast Asia last year with a client of ours who's trying to figure out how to create some more market share for them. They sell beverages, cold drinks and beverages. One of the problems they have is they're out in the world of kiosks and street vendors. They're not in the world of fancy stores with computers for checkouts. So they don't know anything about what's going on the street. So we said, well, what if we took some simple sensors and some microprocessors and stuck them together and instrumented a refrigerator that has these cold drinks in them, see if we could learn some stuff. So we built a refrigerator that has sensors embedded in it. It's not something that's super expensive that a manufacturer builds, but it's something that could actually be retrofitted. There are hundreds of thousands of these drink coolers throughout India, China, Southeast Asia that have no information about them. You have no idea what's in them, how fast they're moving, or anything more about them. So we built this cooler that we call the Smart Cooler to help our client figure out what's going on in their emerging markets. Super hot topic around augmented reality now that glass has been out for a while and a lot of questions, sort of, is that technology searching for a problem? Well, I can tell you that there are definitely interesting applications out there for augmented reality. So, for example, in the insurance world, think about what it might be like if you had a car accident and your insurance adjuster could come out with technology that could help them identify how to get your car repaired faster, what exactly is wrong with the car, and how to get you your payment faster and in a more expedited way. So we're doing prototyping and building stuff with augmented reality using glass and other head-mounted displays. Gaming. Anybody a Hearthstone player?
Oh.
Or was a Hearthstone player? Okay, so my sons and I were playing Hearthstone last year, and it's all right. It's pretty fun. I guess I've stopped playing it, but at the time I was playing it, and was talking to some of our colleagues who work in cybersecurity. And one of the big problems in cybersecurity is, despite all the problems that happen out there, the security experts in their firms have a hard time getting funding to do proactive prevention measures. Usually what happens is they have to wait for a problem before they get funding. So one of the things that's really important is educating leaders and people who have the money to help them understand what the realities and what problems might arise. So we took the idea of Hearthstone and we built a game called the Game of Threats. And we took this idea of a card-based multiplayer game and we built it around the idea of companies and hackers playing a game against one another. So it's a game that basically is like playing Hearthstone, only so one player's a hacker and one player's the company. And they play each other, taking actions and countermeasures. And it's a way that our clients can learn about what the real risks are around not spending money in cyber protection. And got a lot of nice accolades from a bunch of media around that. And finally, with E3 just wrapping up, virtual reality is a hot topic. We're doing a lot of work right now around both live recording and virtual environments. So some examples of stuff we're working on. We built a cardboard app for an insurance company who was trying to explain to some of their customers what risk means, what kind of risks there are, natural disaster risks, risks of construction issues. We built a cardboard app that you can see some of the environments on the top using Unity. Are there any Unity developers out there? So, huge platform for VR right now. We've also done some work around automobile test driving using virtual environments, and also we've done a lot of live recording using GoPro rigs to 3D record an environment. So these are just some examples of some things to let you know that there is another place to go. You don't have to be in a startup to engage with the startup world. You can help solve some really big problems with companies, with big, giant global companies who have their own massive problems to solve. There was a Nobel laureate named Lev Landau who won the prize in physics in the 60s, and he said, all new things are not interesting, and all interesting things are not new. And I think for me, that sums up a lot of what we do, is try to bring the new things that are interesting and important to companies to them, but also help them embrace and understand their big investments that they've already made and what's important to them. So, with that, hopefully I've opened your eyes to a little bit of a different path, maybe not the startup world, but a world in which you can engage in established companies, bringing some of the startup ideas to them and solving big problems. So with that, do we have time for a couple questions? We have time for one question. Okay, one question.
Hi. So one of my questions is that in terms of your jet ski tugboat metaphor, jet skis can't pull tugboats that well. So how do you deal with internal friction within these large companies that are more resistant to change? Or there's like other structures that don't want to?
Yeah, good question. So the metaphor is not one pulling the other, but them both coexisting. So the question was, how do you get past the friction in large organizations? That's a lot of what we deal with, and trying to create smaller, agile environments to prototype and experiment first before trying to bite off something big. So that's a big part of what we do is create experiments, environments for testing and experimentation and prototyping to help large companies start to embrace these new ideas. So it's a lot about experimentation, prototyping, measured innovation. Okay, thank you.